The white man is only a few thousand years old on this planet. And when it comes to the black man has no beginning. Others say that the black man's beginning was on another planet 76 trillion years ago. And a whole bunch of other foolishness like that you'll hear on the internet. I want to address some of that. This young pharaoh and the Nation of Islam actually teaches that black folk came about 76 trillion years ago from a mad scientist, and then 66 trillion years ago he blew up the planet and all type of crazy stuff from the tribe of Shabazz. They weren't African, they were Asiatic blacks. That's part of Clarence 13X and the 5% lessons that came down from Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm X taught this, Farrakhan, Wesley Muhammad. This is Nation of Islam doctrine on the origins of man. And recently we have people like Young Pharaoh that's teaching it online. It's madness. It's madness, and we have to understand that nothing happens in a vacuum. Back in 1931, there was a guy that wrote a book, and the book was named Last and First Man. The guy's name was Olaf Stapledon. And in 1931, this is about the same time Elijah Muhammad's coming on the scene, Master Fard Muhammad. Some people say he was moving under an alias. He worked with the Theosophical Society, Helen Blavatsky and those European Satanists, devil worshippers, or whatever you want to call them. But that last man standing, H.G. Wells, Lovecraft, these are people that were writing science fiction books. Blacks lived on another planet. A man blew up the earth. And that's where the moon comes from, because it was part of the earth originally, and it's just a bunch of madness. It's all over the internet. But y'all gotta stop believing these lies. Y'all gotta stop believing these lies. There's a book out there on Ronald, I think the guy. There's a book called Invented Knowledge. If you look at Invented Knowledge and Henry Louis Gates, a biography, on page 26, he talks about the 76 trillion years when man was created, this big head scientist, and all of this stuff. All of this stuff is crazy stuff. Nation of Islam taught it. Young pharaohs out here teaching it, and they're discussing that the white people came from or of a different origin. Now, the crazy thing with it that I spoke on this summer, I had a class on it, is that British Israelism, they're Europeans that taught the same thing. When Elijah Muhammad was teaching that madness, there were European groups that were also teaching that blacks were outside of the garden and they were considered the beast of the field. And the white man was Adam and Eve, and those were the good Europeans. And it's all madness. It's all madness, and it's based on legends. It's based on stories around the time the 1930s. 90% of black people that were in this country, they were in the South, because we came by way of slavery. They were in the South. But when the Great Migration took place, a lot of people started coming up north. I think it was 1908 that they started, the big car company in Detroit and stuff. And a lot of people started moving up here. And blacks were going through a lot of stuff. With Europeans, and people started inventing things to say that the white man is wicked because of what the blacks are going through. Recently freed from slavery and coming up, trying to find work, trying to make it happen for themselves, and raise a family, and there was a lot going on. People later on started redlining with real estate, not giving loans out, and just a whole bunch of stuff. So people were attempting, because of how Europeans were treating blacks, people came up with all type of fanciful stuff, all type of crazy stuff. And one is that white people came about later on, and they're different from us, but Europeans have done the same thing. There's actually only one race. People running around here talking about Monkey Gene and Nurubu Planet X and all of this other stuff, where black people come from, where the aliens, and it's all madness. Y'all have to stop the madness. Remember those books that I said, Invented Knowledge, biography of Louis Gates, page 26, and Last Man, from that other gentleman that wrote that book, Lovecraft and H.G. Wells. Those were just fantasy books, and fantasy was mixed with what was going on at the time. People were upset at the time, and Elijah Muhammad and Fard Muhammad, they came up with some lies. They came up with some lies to make black people feel good, to try to explain why white people are so wicked because they were not of the same species as we were. And that kind of made people feel better at the time, and they built an entire doctrine around it. Malcolm X, like I said, Wesley Muhammad. This is Nation of Islam doctrine. Young pharaohs teaching it. It's pure madness. They don't know where it came from, but it came from sci-fi. It came from ancient sci-fi back in mom in them days, back in 1931. That's when he dropped that book. And a lot of people started talking about people living on another planet and all this madness. It's all madness. It's all madness. Stop the lies. You've been watching Berean TV. My name is Brother Berean. If you like what you heard, subscribe.